Let's roll the cameras. Another game. And black against 1396. Okay. So obviously we play the Sicilian. And we are still at the stage when, well, a lot of players play either anti-Sicilians or they play, offbeat Sicilians, such as knight f3 and bishop c4, as I call it, the Italian against the Sicilian, although I think the official name is the Bowdler attack. Here we're facing knight b1 to c3, which is the jumping off point to a variety of different anti-Sicilians. You might recognize the Grand Prix attack, which is the move f4 on move 3. There is also the closed Sicilian, which is the kingside bishop fianchetto on the next move. And of course, knight c3 does not necessarily preclude the possibility that white goes back into the open Sicilian against virtually any of black's moves. White responds in many cases with knight g1 to f3 and then plays d4 and then gets back into an open Sicilian. So because we are accelerated dragon players in this speedrun, it makes perfect sense for us to roll out an corresponding setup as we've done before. And that setup, of course, starts with the move knight c6. Now, I'll talk a little bit after the game, and I've done this before, about which move you should play based on what variation of the open Sicilian you play. If you're a Najdorf player, you actually don't want to go knight c6 here. This is a pretty well-known idea, because white can what's called move order you into a Sicilian that you don't play by flipping back into an open Sicilian, if that makes sense. And of course, in the Najdorf, the knight doesn't come out to c6. So I'll expand on that a little bit. Bishop b5 is the third major anti-Sicilian variation. I don't think this has a name, but this line has been around for decades now, and it's like a faceless anti-Sicilian. It can be a very dangerous line if black is not pretty familiar with the theory. Black can get a bad position positionally and tactically. It resembles a Rossolimo, but of course it's inferior to a Rossolimo. In the Rossolimo, there is a knight on f3. And the function that knight fulfills is, of course, it protects the d4 square. So the principled move here, and the move that we are going to play, and this is also the response to bishop g5 in the Trompowsky, right? It's a pretty common general type of move across many openings. And that is, of course, knight c6 to d4. And yes, we're moving the same piece more than once, true, but in this case, it's pretty clear that this knight is a pretty monster piece, and we're also pressuring the bishop. So the main line here for white is bishop b5 to c4. Knight f3 is a sideline, and I'll make an honest confession straight away. This is not a sideline that I remember the theory of very well. So we're just going to have to make some stuff up here, and that's kind of going to be fun. Now, the first move I think is quite obvious. The reason we play knight d4 is to eliminate the bishop on b5. This move doesn't make much sense. It just allows white to bring their queen out, and then we're not developed at all. So we might as well give this knight up for the bishop. So we take the bishop. And now the vast majority of people, and this might be a move we play as well, I think would instinctively play a6 here, right? a6, of course, is a natural human instinct, and it pushes the knight back to c3. But I would push back on the idea that a6 is necessarily forced, right? And it's worthwhile to explore these instincts you often have, because they can actually be wrong. The knight on b5, it's not all that dangerous as a standalone piece, right? So we actually could play a move such as d6, or we could play even a move such as knight g8 to f6, trying to exploit the fact that the pawn on e4 is temporarily undefended. And knight f6 is quite an interesting move here as far as I vaguely remember. So let me take a moment here to think about what we want to play. a6 is the natural move, and then we can transpose into a bit of a Najdorf setup by playing a6 and then d6. We actually could get into like a souped up Najdorf if white ends up playing d4, which I think he very well might. And because I am a Najdorf player myself, this is something people might not know, I played the Najdorf Sicilian from the time that I was about 1700 to the time that I was a 2500 GM. So I played the Najdorf for many, many years, and that is the setup I feel most comfortable with. And so for that reason, we are going to play a6, chase the knight away. And of course, after the game, we will explore the theory, we'll do some research, and we will figure out the best setup against bishop b5. And now, we're going to roll out the pawn and put it on d6. And as we predicted, white plays d4. And we get, it's wrong to call this an open Sicilian. This is still an anti-Sicilian because white lacks the light-squared bishop. So fundamentally, the position is quite different from any Najdorf that we could get. And here we don't have much of a choice. We don't want to allow white to take on c5 and favorably trade queens, drawing our king out of its shell. So of course we want to play cd, and our opponent clearly going down a theoretical line. I think we're still stuck in theory. Now, I could talk about this position for ages, but in the interest of time, I'm going to hit on the important points. There are going to be a couple of moves in the next few moves, which I think the people watching, you might not fully understand them. You might have objections to them, and I promise that I'll expand more after the game, but I want to keep some time on my clock. This seems to be a dangerous opponent. So what is black's fundamental issue in this position? We have the bishop pair, which is great. Our pawn structure is very healthy. The issue is that we lack development, right? We are seriously behind in development, and that's always a dangerous moment, right? We don't have a single piece developed, so you might say, okay, well, let's get started. Let's go knight f6, right? The issue with knight f6 is that white can actually strike in the center with e5. Now, what happens in that variation? Well, after e5, we play d takes e5. White trades queens and then takes back on e5 with the knight, attacking the f7 pawn. And even though the queens are off the board, it doesn't mean that white's initiative suddenly subsides. If you visualize that position, you'll see that it's quite unpleasant for black. We have to move the king back to e8, and then white gets the bishop out, and that just seems like a pretty unpleasant position. So we need to do something about the possibility of white playing e5. And yes, this something involves a serious positional concession, but I vote we make a positional concession rather than get crushed in some endgame where we're not developing any pieces. What am I talking about? Well, definitely not f6. That is way too big of a concession. Way too big of a concession. Let's beat them to it. And this is a pretty typical move in certain Najdorf-like positions, and I'll introduce a couple of other examples to you. Queen b4. Something tells me at this point, either this is ridiculous level of preparation or our opponent is just BSing. Something tells me he's not BSing. Queen b4 actually looks like a great move. This is a very high-level move. So yeah, I'm getting out-theoried. But that's okay. We're going to figure it out. So you might see the move d5 and assume that it's good for black. But we're not ready to play d5, right? We would be biting off way more than we can chew after d5. The queen will drop back to b3, and then our e5 pawn is going to be hanging. I actually don't even want to calculate that line. I think we can do without d5. So we lack development. We have also created a major weakness on the d5 square. So we've got a lot of problems to solve here. And the issue with the move knight f6 is that white brings the bishop out to g5. And this is a classic positional idea. I call this the Smyslov idea, and I'll show you the stem game after we finish. Basically, it's very simple to understand. White takes the knight away and then sticks his own knight on d5, and that's the last thing we want. We want to be able to contest the d5 square with our knight. So, unfortunately, this is not a move I really want to play, but I think we have to play it. Starting with bishop e7 puts a band-aid over the problem, but after bishop e7, knight f6, again white's going to play bishop g5. I think we have to eliminate white's control over the g5 square and play another pawn move. I know we're kind of, we're testing the limits of the strategy, but our structure is still very fundamentally sound, right? Everything is defending each other. Yes, we have a weakness on d5, but I don't feel like we're getting checkmated here, right? Concretely, I feel like we're finally ready to bring our pieces out, and once we do, we've got a lot of hidden assets in this position, which can start coming out if our opponent doesn't manage to continue the initiative. And, conducting the initiative is one of the hardest skills in chess, and it's a skill that, many GMs aren't perfect at. Bishop e3. So our opponent develops the bishop, and finally, we can start developing our own piece. So without a second thought, we play the move knight f6. You might notice that white has bishop to b6 here, which our opponent might play, but this is not, I think, such a scary move. We bring our queen up to d7, and that's a little bit awkward because it blocks the development of the light-squared bishop, but the queen can park itself on c6 later to make space for the bishop. So bishop b6 played. We can also play queen e7, but that's actually far more awkward. What is our priority here? Well, our priority, as you should understand, is to develop your, actually, wait, there's a crazy idea here for white. Let me think about this for a second. Wow. I'm speechless. There's a crazy idea that's making me speechless. And it's actually working. So this is in response to queen d7. The crazy idea is rook d1. And if we play queen c6 there, we're walking into knight f3 takes e5. d e5 and then rook d8 checkmate. So we have to solve that problem. I mean, this is beyond my pay grade, I'll be totally honest. Okay, well, we have ways to solve that problem. Let's go queen d7 anyway. White can also castle queenside, which is a super high-level move. Okay. Yeah, this is not great. I'm getting outplayed here. So what we have to do is move the queen. We have to move the queen because white is threatening knight takes e5. But where do we move it? Well, we have to move it on a square such that the queen defends e5. Does that make sense? Otherwise, white will play knight takes e5 and deliver checkmate on d8. So the only square that I see is actually e6. It's not a great square because we're still blocking our light squared bishop. But as long as we manage to castle, I feel like we'll be okay. I am very worried about the move bishop to c7 here. I feel like that's what a GM would play. And I think that forces us to get into a pawn down endgame. I mean, it's not great, but it's something. And I have to say, this bishop b5 line, in my defense, the reason I don't really know it that well is because I am a Najdorf player, and for my whole life, I have avoided this line by playing d6 in this position. In retrospect, maybe we should have done that, but I'm offering an official accelerated dragon repertoire, and I will have gaps in that repertoire myself. So I think that's part of the fun, right? We do research, and I fill those gaps myself. Okay, bishop c7 played. Oh, I can't even... Wait, no, I can't play d5. We have to play d5, because otherwise white takes on d6. So we have to try this move. By hook or by crook, like we have to attempt this move. And let's see how white responds in this position. I'm worried about just knight takes d5. Just knight takes d5, and that's basically resignable after knight takes d5. Yeah, in this position. Because I can't take the queen, it's mate. Okay. That was some bait for a stream snipe. Okay, queen a5. Yeah, I'm starting to smell a rat. Okay, let's go d4. Let's see how our opponent responds in this position. So d4. Now, this could still be theory, and if it is, then I stand corrected. Something tells me it's not. So, okay, there's nothing we can do. Let's set everything aside. We've been in this situation before in the speedrun, and I haven't been happy with how I've handled it. My request to everyone in the chat is that we basically treat this like a normal game. We do our best, and if I lose, we'll check the game. If I believe he's cheating, I will let you know. But right now, we have this game. I can still try to play the best moves, and that would be in the best spirit of what we're doing the speedrun. Doesn't matter. What if we're playing Magnus, right? It's completely lost for black at this point, but white still needs to find a couple of moves here. And the move that I think white needs to find is knight f3 takes e5. The problem is that we can't take the knight. That's the issue. And the reason we can't take the knight is because of rook d8 check, king e7, and queen c5 with mate. So as black here, there's only one thing that we can do, and that's try to castle kingside. So the only move here is bishop to e7. We're going to have to give up both of our center pawns and castle. Yeah, this is the strongest opponent not only have we ever faced in the speedrun, but this is the strongest opponent I have ever faced, period. I don't remember the last time I got crushed like this was maybe when I was like 1600. But let's see how our opponent handles the ensuing complications. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's assume that all of this was theory, that this is some deep chessable preparation. Now comes the moment when our opponent really has to demonstrate some technique. The game is far from over. The game is not over. We can still hold this. You've seen me survive crazier positions. So we're going to give our opponent the benefit of the doubt. and I'm going to try to outline how I try to survive dead loss positions, which is another important topic in the meantime. And our opponent finally taking his time. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. So what's happening in this position? Well, I would have taken on d4, as probably would 99% of people in the chat, within like 2 or 3 seconds. Our opponent is contemplating other candidate moves, I assume. There is a crazy idea that white has here. I won't quite reveal it, but if it's played, I will confirm that that was the idea. So let's see what our opponent comes up with here. He's now taken quite a while. Queen a4 check. So it's a check, right? And we can do a bunch of things here. I don't want to go king f8. That's just way too ugly. We can play bishop to d7, but then that allows simplification. We don't want simplification because we're down a bunch of pawns. Probably we should play the move b5, but then white has knight takes b5. A takes b5, and the rook on a8 hangs at the end of the line, right? Unfortunately, after b5, knight takes b5, and then we can castle, but then the knight comes around and takes the pawn on d4, and our queen is actually trapped there. Our queen is actually trapped in that position. So I have an idea, but this is like the flimsiest of possible ideas. It's interesting, though. We're going to go b5. We're going to go b5. Now, first of all, it's not a given that our opponent sees knight takes b5. You know, all these mini tactics are not that easy to spot, you know, for players in this rating range, but thus far, our opponent has shown quite an ability to navigate the complexity at a grandmaster level. And knight takes b5 is no exception. My idea was bishop to d7. I actually think this is a very clever concept, folks. So give this a chance. Bishop d7. Okay, now I thought I might win a piece here. Queen takes d7, and the knight is now hanging. We're threatening to capture it with our queen. Let's see what I missed here. Let's see what I missed here. I mean, I'm sure it's winning somehow, but the thing is, we are threatening to take the knight with our queen, and it's not so easy to defend the knight. I mean, white can play the move c4, but then already we castle, and white's pieces get very loose. Oh, I see. There's the move knight b5, I think, to c3, which I'm sure our opponent probably saw a mile away. But listen, it leads to an endgame. And endgames, even completely lost ones, lead to long games. Long games allow us to milk some clock. And perhaps we can embark on a campaign of trying to milk white's clock down. I mean, we've already gotten like 4 minutes off of it, which against an opponent of this caliber is quite the achievement. Let's see what our opponent comes up with here. And for those watching on YouTube and kind of rolling their eyes and being like, why am I not saying what's on everybody's mind? Again, if you haven't seen my previous speedruns, I have a very strict policy for games in which players play suspiciously, where I don't comment on their play as long as the game is going. When the game ends, I share my thoughts. But first and foremost, we look at the game carefully with an engine. We give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Again, always the thought experiment you should do is like, what if you just played the best game of your life? Like most of you have played 99% accuracy games. You cannot, like, how would you feel if you were the person who has just played a perfect game and 3,000 people are shouting that you're a cheater, right? You would not want to be treated that way. And I really believe in putting yourself in someone else's shoes. With that said, I'm not going to let people slide if it's obvious that they're cheating, but we're first going to investigate carefully with an engine. That's how you have to do it. Not trying to virtue signal here. That's truly what I believe in, because there are truly many instances where somebody has preparation, or you think that they're cheating, but then you check with the engine and they're actually not playing top computer moves. That also happens, but you've gotten it in your head that they're cheating. So it's super important, I think, not to do this. So our opponent is thinking. He's deep in thought. We're actually making some progress on milking the clock. I really think knight c3 is the only move. What's interesting is there's this move knight b5 to d6 check. And what happens in that line? Knight d6 check. We play bishop takes d6, and the queen on a4 is hanging. So if we calculate that line, knight d6 check, bishop takes d6, queen takes queen, king takes queen, bishop takes bishop, king takes bishop, we're up a knight. And in that resulting position, there is a fork, e5 check, but that pawn is undefended. We can just take it. If white had a pawn on f4, then this line actually would have worked and liquidated into a winning rook endgame, probably. DK guy is asking, okay, knight c3 found by our opponent. So we have no choice at this point. So first of all, we cannot take the knight because the pawn is pinned. Everybody should see that. We have to trade queens because the queens are in contact and our queen is pinned. So we have two ways of doing this. We can try to castle, but that makes no sense to me because that gives white an even better version of this winning endgame. So we should at least take. Okay. And now we should make a decision. There is, of course, knight takes c4, but the reason knight takes c4 doesn't work is because of rook h to e1. And the pressure down the e-file is way, way, way too powerful. I think, yeah, it is. Actually, it's not as easy as it may seem there to finish me off, I think. The alternative is, again, to castle. There's also the move rook c8 here, try to hit the bishop. But the bishop can just drop back to e5. That's actually even better square than c7. So that's counterproductive. We're going to be down 3 pawns if we castle. So knight takes c4 might be the practical attempt. Against, how do I put this delicately? Against another player, I might play knight takes c4. But in the interest of prolonging the game, I'm going to castle. Try to get our opponent to use clock, which unfortunately he has stopped doing. Okay, well, let's bring the rook into the game. Not much that we can do here other than just sort of sit around and wait for white to convert his 3 extra pawns. But another note that I'll make as you're watching this is that if you are trying to figure out if someone's cheating, don't resign out of disgust. Actually try to play real chess because you're going to actually build up evidence. Okay, so if he is cheating, then a 50-move game is usually a lot more compelling than a 10-move game where you just resign because you're disgusted. So play real chess, and this is what I'm doing here. I'm bringing my rooks into the game. I'm trying my best. We're just down 3 pawns. That's the reason black is lost. Our pieces are actually the best that they have been all game long. But, at this point, we're waging 2 different battles. We're obviously trying to gauge our opponent's play. And I'm still trying to save this endgame, right? Because on the off chance that white actually starts playing in a semi-flawed manner, we will have a chance. Okay, so we've gotten white to think again. We've gotten white to spend half of his time. So maybe if we can make another 23 moves, we'll have a shot. Although something tells me it's not really the case. Knight c3, good move. So what we want to avoid here with black are trades, right? We want to keep as many pieces on the board as possible for as long as possible. And in the interest of avoiding trades, we don't want to go bishop c5 here because of rook to d8 check. All right, so we basically just want to sit around and wait. And for that reason, I'm going to play king h7. So that when we move our bishop, rook d8 is no longer going to be a check. It's still probably going to force a rook trade, and it's obviously still winning. There's just not much that I can do here. Common misconception, like I'm a GM, people think that it's impossible to bring GMs down. They never die, but there's certain positions where you see what I see. It's not like I see something special here and, I'm going to create chances. Like basically black just needs to sit around and wait and hope that white makes a blunder, which is increasingly unlikely. Knight h5, only move. Okay, this targets the bishop. So, okay, rook d7. Okay, let's go bishop b4. Still trying. I've drawn these types of positions in blitz, that's for sure. But as I've tried to explain many times, and I might do a video on this actually. I've never done a video on I've talked about this on stream a lot. And that's the concept of like, how do I know when someone's cheating? What stands behind my intuition that someone's not playing honestly? And part of it is this feeling I always refer to that you're playing against a wall, right? No matter what you come up with, your opponent has the perfect response available to it. in response to it, and it's just like this total feeling of hopelessness that's really hard to actually quantify. It's just a feeling you get born of, a lot of experience. We're going to go rook e8 here, try to take on g3 and win back at least one of the pawns. And I'm definitely getting that feeling very strongly in this game from the very opening moves. Like from the very moment that our opponent blitzed out that crazy preparation. Rook e2. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to blockade with rook e6. Notice that I'm trying to play super resiliently, not giving our opponent an easy job. But of course, white is totally winning because he's just up 3 pawns. King d2, f4. Maybe even f4 immediately. I mean, that's what I would play, but that's a GM move, f4. Because you have to give up a pawn, and people don't like giving up their extra pawns. And then just push f5 and e6, and black's position is blown to smithereens there. Yeah, and Analytical says, best thing I've heard someone say is a feeling of a noose being tightened from all directions. Exactly. And this is the feeling I'm getting. Look at this play on all sides of the board. King b2. Chase the rook away. Okay, I oblige. We have to move. The last thing we want to do is take the bishop unless we're absolutely... so this was the idea. It was to chase the rook away and now to play f4. Just exquisite technique. Is white actually winning with correct play? Dude, is white winning? Look at the position. Look at the position. He's up 3 pawns. Okay, king g6. Let's try. We are trying to build a blockade on this square. And I think at this point, it's not... I think f4 was maybe a mistake. And see, this is the exact point I'm trying to make here. There's a chance that it's just that he prepped really well. And he's trying his best, and he's actually playing super well. So we just have to complete the game and take it in stride before we make any conclusions. Now, king g6 is a really strong move, by the way, I think, from our perspective, because we're actually going to plant the king on f5, and it's not going to be that easy for white to dislodge that king. We're going to go king f5. Okay, white's down to 6 minutes. We're actually making some progress. I think if we can get white down to like 2 minutes, he might maybe start panicking. I don't know. We'll see. But look at what I'm trying to do. I'm putting my king on f5. The reason this was necessary is because if we didn't do that, white would have just pushed f5 and then pushed e6. And clearly that is game over. So if white can get our king off of f5, then the game ends. If white can push f5 virtually in any version, it's over. So we're just going to try to keep this king here for dear life. There's also the passed c pawn, but that pawn isn't really going anywhere at the moment. So amazingly, okay, king b3. King b3. Okay, well, I don't see exactly what this does. Yeah, we can play g5 here and try to disrupt the... I don't know about g5. I mean, a lot of these moves are basically equivalent. Well, rook f7 repeats moves. That leads to a draw. White obviously does not want to draw. Okay, I guess we can double on the c file to maybe prevent the move c4. Just, again, trying to make this as difficult as possible for our opponent to milk a lot of clock. He's down at 5 minutes, so it's starting to get just a little bit interesting here. But it's just 15 plus 10 is so much time that you can basically afford to think as long as you want on every move. If somebody put a knife to my throat right now, I would say that he probably hasn't used the engine in 100% of moves, but has likely done it in like has done it frequently this game. But we'll see. Again, no need to speculate when we have the engine. Let's continue defending gracefully. And already I think rook f7 check is a sign that our opponent might be struggling just a bit. We've taken another minute off his clock, by the way. And rook b6 check is a threat that forces the king onto the corner file. So wait a second. Wait a second. This actually... Wait a minute. That was definitely must be a mistake by him. Wait, this has gotten interesting all of a sudden. We can push his moves to the... We can push his king to the side. And it's almost mate. Pause champ. So do you guys see what I'm saying? You can go rook b6 or even rook b8. It's already almost a draw. Wait, let me calculate. Let me calculate for a second. God, there's got to be something already at this point. It's still lost, I'm afraid. It's still losing, but not by much. Yeah, it's definitely still lost. Because the king runs to a5. Okay, so here's my idea. All right, well, crud. Let's start with the check. Yeah, if I can pull out a draw in this game, I'll be like the happiest person in the world. So here's what I'm calculating, folks. I assume our opponent will go king a4. It would be wild to play king a3 in this position, although anything is possible. But king a3 allows an additional check on c3. I don't know any person in the universe who would play king a3 here. King a4 is logical. Then what I was calculating is rook to c4 check, which I know all of you see. King a5, rook c4, king a5, rook b5, king takes a6, rook a4 checkmate, except it's not checkmate because the rook on b5 has lost its support. So there's no way to ladder checkmate. I don't see anything. We can try the move rook b5 now to cut the king off from the 5th rank. But that's slow, right? Rook b5 is slow, and we've given white a tempo that he can use to, for example, play rook to e4. So I have an interesting idea. Well, I don't want to play rook takes c6 because that relinquishes the net that we have woven over white's king. I'm going to make a move that you might find confusing. I'm going to go knight h5 to f6. But the idea is very straightforward. We're attacking. All of a sudden, white's king is under attack. This has gotten exciting. And when you're attacking, the first rule of attack is that you want to bring pieces into the attack, into the game. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to bring the knight desperately, quickly as possible into the attack via d5. Now, what is it doing on d5, you may ask? Well, it would be protecting the rook. Okay, I don't get this move. We can just take it, I think, can't we? What happens if I take? Wait, let's think. I think we have to take, because if we don't, he just goes rook c7. Takes e7? Oh, and we're pinned. Okay. No, we're going to try. Let's see what he wants. Yeah, you guys are right. I didn't see e7 from a distance. We can try rook b5. Maybe he promotes. Let's try rook b5. Actually, this is a super sexy move. Rook b5 is a super sexy. No, rook e6 loses on the spot. Rook e6, he takes it and goes rook e8. Or goes rook f2. We don't want to leave. I mean, a lot of players would promote here, you know? A lot of people would promote in this position. But obviously, this guy is not a lot of people. No, rook e5 doesn't work. Rook e5, I take it. That actually doesn't work. No, I have managed to create mega complications in this position. But unfortunately, the time control is so vast that, like, he still has 3 minutes left. Whoa. Bishop e1. Okay. Stopping the check on c3. Cold-blooded. Cold-blooded. That is a dank-ass move right there. We got to go back to e8 with our rook. That is a standard 1300 level move. Yeah, bishop g3 to e1. Yep. We've gotten him down 2 minutes 40 seconds. The game is still going. Yeah, bishop e1 is a very standard move for his level. As is, yeah, and now c4. Okay, rook c5 it is. Still in it. Still in it. Give me at least... the problem is he starts playing... He actually, like, is playing quite fast. And I guess he's just going to take now. But, we'll see. Yeah, he whooped me. This doesn't look like the best move. Here I check and go king g6. No, what am I missing? King g6? Still in it. This does not look like the best move, what he just did there. Okay, rook f8. Yeah, he's... Man, I'm impressed that he's actually managed to play fast. And I guess c5. Wow. Wait. Let's try to defend from behind with rook e2. There's still a chance. I mean, there's a chance that he plays a move quickly and blunders. There's definitely still a shot in this game. a4. All right, king b6, and it's winning. Oh! Wait, it's not over yet. It's not over yet. Yeah, fell for it. And not only is it not over yet, I might not even be winning. So let's temper our celebrations. Let's temper our celebrations. Yeah, I think it's winning. I think it's winning, but listen, this pawn can hardly be stopped. So what do we do here? What is black's best move in this position? Let's go back to speedrun mode. We've allowed ourselves a little too much fun. Knight e6. Yeah, knight e6, c7. Knight takes c7. Oh, I figured out the win. I figured out the win. And it is knight takes c7. And now, I think we have a genius move. No, we're winning. And the genius move is a5. Very nice, you guys got it. So there's two scenarios here. Scenario one is where we take on g2. And white takes on a6. The problem in that scenario is that white is going to promote the a-pawn. We're going to have to give the rook up for the a-pawn. So we need to win the a-pawn at all costs. How do we win the a-pawn? Well, we need to fix it on a light square. So we play a5 here. And then we go rook to c4. So watch this line. King up to b6. Rook down to c4. And the king cannot go up to b5 because that blunders the bishop on c7. And we win. Unbelievable. Now, again, there's a lot to talk about here. A lot to talk about. I want to repeat that I am not throwing out any accusations. Our opponent's play was highly suspicious. We can all agree on that. No matter where you stand on the whole cheating question, we can agree that the play was odd. It's rare for me to be outplayed by a 1300. Not impossible. Everything in chess is possible, but it's rare. So we need to check the game carefully with an engine. There's also a chance that our opponent was stream sniping because a lot of the time I said a move, it corresponded with it being played. Let's push our pawn maybe to a4. I think we should actually start with king g5. So we need to operate purely based on what the engine reveals. Yeah, that was a crazy game. And I have a feeling that our opponent may have been sniping because this was a crazy coincidence. I literally said king b6 as a last-ditch effort in case our opponent is listening to the stream. Let's go king h4. This is the easiest. We just take around and win the pawns. Bishop. Oh, I blundered. Wait, actually, I didn't blunder. I didn't blunder, but actually, I missed this move. This is another nice move. So we go G. Okay, actually, wait. This is an instructive moment. What we need to do is we need to eliminate both of these pawns while keeping at least one of our pawns alive. So the way we do that is we play G5. We play G5. And then we don't play king takes H3 here. No, because then we give up the G5 pawn. We could end up losing the A pawn, and that's a draw. So what's the move here? It's not A4. Forget the A pawn. We don't need the A pawn. That pawn can go, you know, take a walk. So what we just need to do, rook A3, rook H2. We win the H pawn with our rook so that the king can maintain contact with the G pawn. Then we take G4, and white's king is going to be way too far away to stop the G pawn. That's it. The game is over. Of course, rook H2 was also similarly winning. You don't even need the A pawn. This would be completely winning without the A pawn. That's it. And it will be completely winning without the A pawn. Yeah, table-based draw. Yeah, we just move the king and promote. Bang. Making sure that we're not blundering the pawn. Right? It took me a second there. Just push, push, push. Push, push, push. And rook h1. g1 queen. And there is a way to do this so that you intercept the bishop, but it doesn't matter. We just go ahead and make a queen. What a game. What a game. This is going to be like my most viewed speedrun video probably, which is kind of sad in a way, but I kind of get it. Thank you, Joel, for the 5 subs. So we're going to start in this case by running the game through the engine briefly, and this is not part of our analysis. We are also going to analyze this game, but we are going to begin with just a sort of overview of our opponent's play. Now, notice the accuracy might be completely messed up because of the huge blunder, so I wouldn't put too much stock here in the accuracy. That's sort of the caveat. I would not put too much stock in the accuracy. But nonetheless, we will start by checking. And if we want to do this really properly, we would do this on the Stockfish engine on ChessBase, which is what we're going to do. So I'm going to check the accuracy. And then we're actually going to do this properly, plugging in the game into ChessBase, where I have a much stronger engine and an engine that will go up to a certain depth. So we're going to do it in a moment. Let's let the machine run. So as this loads, this is the speed run. The emphasis is on instructive value. So to those who are watching this and are feeling a little underwhelmed at my lack of explanations, I do apologize for that, but this is a kind of hopefully an extenuating circumstance. I will explain a lot of stuff in short order, but this is still part of your overall chess improvement, right? Knowing how to deal with these types of players, knowing the signs, how to act in these cases is, I think, very important. Okay, so 82.5, and again, you can see that there was one blunder, and that blunder was king b6. It says 0 mistakes, and it also says I had 0 mistakes, so it actually says I have higher accuracy. This makes no sense, right? You can just a priori, this makes no sense. You know that, because white was winning completely the entire game, right? So the accuracy, it just doesn't make, and it's skewed because of the blunder. White blundered a full rook. So what we do now is we plug the game into ChessBase, we turn on Stockfish, and we quickly run through it, just kind of checking to see how many top moves there were. This is not a scientific method of investigation. I'm not claiming that it is, but we're trying to give ourselves a better sense, okay? All right, this should do. This should do. So let's examine. Now, first of all, we need to analyze this opening, just independently of everything. And I have a feeling, yeah, as far as I remember, so here you can see on the right-hand side, well, you're not actually seeing it, but Stockfish at depth 46 says E6 is equalizing. So this is already a mistake. Amazing. D6 apparently is a mistake. And it is because of this line. Queen D4, E5, and now Queen B4. Yeah. So this is apparently well known. Yeah, 43 games in the database. Wow. So this is a known line. You see, we have to give our opponent the benefit of the doubt. H6. Bishop E3. Still games in the database. Knight F6. Still games in the database. And we can see Jospin played this. Jospin had this in a Title Tuesday game. Queen D7 castles, and Jospin played exactly like I did. We're following the game. Incredible. We're following it Jospin's Title Tuesday game. You can actually see it a little bit in the top window. You can see A5-1 game. That's the Jospin Title Tuesday game. Jospin. And Jospin actually won, which is crazy, but that's a moot point. So it's already +4. Now we check. So D5. Yeah, so this next move is incredibly suspicious. Queen A5. I don't know. Queen B3 is more human to me. So Queen A5 is a top move. Knight takes E5 is basically a top move. Now it's a top move. Bishop B7. Queen A4 check. So this move was not fantastic, but not bad. So this does not spoil anything. B5, Knight B5, Knight D7, and Knight C3. But these are all forced moves. These are all forced moves. Rook D4 is top. Bishop G3 was the second move. Rook D1 is top. Knight C3 is the second move. E5. is slight inaccuracy. Slight inaccuracy, but still it's +6. So this is, you cannot make any conclusions on the basis. No, rook d7 is the second move now. Rook f7 is the second move. Okay, but rook d2 is obvious. Rook e2 is the first move. King b2 maintains the advantage. Yeah, king b2 is the second move now. f4, maybe not the most accurate, but still. Rook b7 is good. So king b3 is a little bit inaccurate. King b3 is a little bit inaccurate. And actually g5 was a move here. Rook f7. Okay, so this is already... white is going a little bit astray. But f5 is... okay, if I'm honest with you, this was maybe the most suspicious moment. Like f5 and e7 is incredible. And bishop e1. Second move is bishop e1. Yeah. That's... bishop e1 is an amazing move. I mean, it makes sense. And c4 is good. Bishop g3 is also a good move. Yeah, rook f8 is not perfect. But this is still completely winning. Oh, c5 is good. a4 is good. And it's completely winning after rook c8. Yeah. So what conclusions can we draw from this brief run through? Well, first of all, knowing that line as, you know, a 1300 is exceedingly rare, but again, it's not impossible. Maybe he looked this up. Maybe this is his jam, right? His line. It could be another Smurf. So there's an option that this is a Smurf, and his real strength based on this game I would estimate at 2,400-2,500 FIDE, but a 2,400 would never, ever, ever in a 15-minute game blunder king b6. So that's what doesn't add up, and that's what tells me maybe he was stream sniping, because I deliberately said king b6. I did this twice. The first time I think he didn't buy it. The first time was when, in this position, I said knight takes d5 is winning. It was a troll, obviously. The second time, it actually did work. So he's up to something. I'm pretty sure of that. But my standard for these videos is, like, if he's watching this video, I'm hoping that he would find my perspective to be reasonable. Like, we looked over the game. This was an incredibly well-played game. It's virtually unprecedented for a 1300 to be able to play a game like this. So there's never any, like, do I have any cold, hard proof? No. But, you know, this is what I can say. Okay. But nonetheless, there's no direct accusations. We just looked over the game. I expressed my suspicions, and that's that. Chess.com always investigates fairly, and, you know, I'm going to let them do that. Let's analyze the game. So we're actually going to analyze it in ChessBase. I actually like this layout. The reason we're going to do that is because this was an engine-heavy game, and it's sensible for us to use Stockfish. We're gonna deviate from our golden rule, which is to never use the engine explicitly in analysis. But this game was so technical, there was so much going on, that I think it just makes sense to focus on the opening phase and make sure that we know how to play against bishop b5. Remember that is the goal of the speedrun, is to develop a full opening repertoire. So that's what we're going to focus on. So let's rewind back to the start. So knight c3. Now, it's important to realize what I said when this game was starting, which is that if you are an accelerated dragon player, then you want to go knight c6. If you're a Najdorf player, you want to go d6, right? Because if white goes knight f3 and doubles back to the open Sicilian, you want to be able to play a Najdorf. Now, conversely, accelerated dragon works the same exact way, right? Knight c6. If white now goes knight f3, just go g6, and you play an accelerated. An anti-Sicilian is anything that's not the open Sicilian. Now, if you're a Najdorf player and you suddenly face this line, there's no way to get back into the Najdorf. Now, you can play the move e5 here to keep the non-open Sicilian flavor, but the latest verdict on this line, which is a very popular line, I don't like this for black. I feel like this is a very, very hard line to play. Although it's highly theoretical and it's been played by a ton of GMs. So hopefully that makes sense. If you are a con Sicilian player, then of course you should play e6 here, which is a great move, by the way. e6 against the closed Sicilian is, I think, maybe even the best line. But you have to be ready to face knight f3, and then you're basically move ordered either into a con or a Taimanov. So based on what you play, you should play that appropriate move here. We played knight c6, and we're facing bishop b5. So knight d4 is the topical move. And after knight f3, let's see what the engine can bring to the table here. So as far as I remember, I think the best line is actually to play a6 here. That's what the engine seems to be giving thus far. a6. If bishop c4, then we can actually play b5. And we're not afraid of bishop d5. We just go rook b8. So you have to be ready in this line to play creatively and to delay your development by a little while, okay? Why is this good for black? Because we're going to play e6 with tempo on the next move, and the bishop is just going to be stupid on this diagonal. And if white takes and drops the knight back, and look at this move, knight f6. Knight takes d4, and this is simple. We take on d5, and then we go bishop b7, fianchettoing, and winning the pawn back with interest. So if white goes d6, then we just go e6, and we pick up the pawn like this. Obviously, we don't take. That looks terrible. And if queen f3, we go e6, using tactics to win the pawn back. If queen h5, then we go rook c8. This is really pretty. And rook c5. We win the pawn back like this. Everything looks easy when you're analyzing with the engine. So you have to toe the line a little bit in this line. But nobody's going to go bishop c4. People go bishop d3 here. That is the main move. This I remember. And now e6. So you set up essentially a con setup, but because this is not an open Sicilian, you shouldn't be afraid of playing this. If white takes and goes knight e2, this is a very important... Now I'm starting to remember this analysis. In this position, you do not go bishop c5, because then the bishop is not positioned very well. You go d5. You go d5. And how does this work? Well, what happens if white plays knight takes d4? Black plays de and wins one of the minor pieces. You see that, right? So the human move here, I think, is e5. But now this pawn is undefended. This pawn is undefended. Whoop! Queen g5. Fork. And again, we're getting away with making this many moves with non-minor pieces because look at how passively white's developed. The bishop on c1 is blocked in. We're not afraid. Our structure's sound here. f4, white can try, but we just drop our queen back. And if white pushes, we just go e5. And this is even better for black. Does this make sense? I hope this is making sense. Like, I hope all these moves... And so far, all of these moves, to me, are, like, perfectly sensible. It's just a lot of concrete stuff you have to remember here. And if ed, then queen takes d5. Let's say white castles. And at this point, I think it makes sense to start developing. The engine likes bishop d7, bishop c6. I like the move knight f6 here. I think this is simple. And black is a perfectly good position here. So this is how you analyze with an engine. You don't just press the space bar, which gives you the next engine move. You actually try to understand why each move is played. So for example, even here, right? Why bishop d7 and not knight f6? Why does the engine prefer this move, right? Well, what you do is you say, after knight f6, what is the move? Well, the move is c3. Then you ask yourself, well, why is the same move not good after the engine's recommendation? And you say, well, black has this move, bishop c6. Okay, well, why is bishop c6 so strong? Well, it threatens checkmate. And why is it bad for white to play f3? Now knight f6, and the idea starts to crystallize. The idea starts to crystallize. After knight takes d4, you have bishop to c5, and here you see the damage that white has done himself by playing f3. And we're able to win the pawn back with interest. Compare that long line with knight f6 and now c3. We don't have the equivalent idea. If we play bishop d7 here and bishop c5, we can still do that, but there's no pin anymore. And actually the knight still can't move, but it's just not quite as effective. Okay, so bishop d7 is actually the most accurate move here. Fascinating. Okay, so that was an exploration of knight takes d4. The main move, as far as I remember, for white is just a castle. And here I really like how the computer handles this. It's suggesting to just drop the knight back to c6 and say, hey, your bishop on d3 looks really, really stupid. I don't want to have anything to do with this. Knight c6 is what's been played against me when I played this line with white. And after bishop e2, we can go back to d4. I mean, this is a repetition that could happen. Because if white takes here, the knight is nowhere good to go. It doesn't have e2 anymore. And remember that in this position, there is this very typical maneuver where you go knight e7 and then knight to c6 in order to protect this pawn. And this pawn is a strength, right? It's lording over the whole position. So there is the possibility of repeating moves. But there is also the possibility in this position. Let's see if there are alternatives to knight d4. Let's say you don't want to repeat moves. Wow, look at the second recommendation, g5. I actually kind of like this move. And the idea should be obvious. You're basically going for the attack. You're going for the attack. You're preventing d4. g5 is a prophylactic move. That's all it is. That's all it is. And it's an idea that exists across a lot of different lines. It's been very popular to play g5 in these types of positions. Let me give you an example. There is a line in the bishop b5 check Sicilian, the Moscow variation, where, oh, my headphones turned off, just a second. So let me remember. It's this. No. It's a6, bishop d3. And is it g5 here? Let me check. It's not g5 here. God damn it. There's a line where black goes g5. Here. It's not here. I'm trying to remember. I swear there's a line where black goes g5, and it's very similar to this. So this. How does it go? Here. No. It's c3. Oh, I remembered. It's c4. Yes. And now 55 games. That g5 is the most popular move in this position. There we go. And famously, Sasha Grishuk was one of the first people to play this in 2015. Veselin Topalov played this for the first time ever against Magnus and won in the Singfield Cup. Topalov beat Carlsen with black in this line. Worth checking out if you're interested. Just search up that game. In any case, I'm digressing. Now, the engine is no longer a fan of this, but that's not the point. As you can understand, imagine facing this for the first time ever, and in 2015, maybe engines were approving it. The point of g5 here is a little bit different. You're trying to go g4, but you're also trying to get white to release the e5 square, and of course, you're trying to open the g file for attack. So you can check out this game, but the bottom line is that g5 it sounds crazy, but it's a common idea in many different types of openings. Of course, in the French, this is also ridiculously common. In many cases, in the Tarrasch French, you get a situation where basically after knight gf3, there's even the move g5 in this position. This exists. And the idea is to push g4. Again, a different reason. You're trying to weaken white's control over d4. But remember that if you see a move that looks crazy, chances are it's actually standard fare in a lot of different positions. Also, you're sort of preparing to fianchetto the bishop, so it's like an extended fianchetto. Now, the engine gives an edge for white after this. First of all, knight d2 is not necessarily a human move. I would be more inclined to play knight e1 to keep the dark-squared bishop open, but apparently after h5, already even objectively black is better, because white is so cramped. So apparently knight d2 is the top engine move, and now we go h5. I would like to have this with black. This looks fun. Nobody's going to play f3 here. That's a weird move. Queen e1. What are these moves? I feel like the human move here is like knight c4, and immediately white is much worse. I guess knight c4 gets chased away. Maybe knight b3 to open the bishop. Queen c7. Typical move in the Sicilian con. Getting the queen on a nice square. And then bishop d6 to aim at the h2 pawn. So let's say bishop b3, bishop d6. It's just a very tactical position. A super risky line. But something worth playing if you're facing a lower rated opponent, because this is how quickly it can get bad. g3, h4, and already black is winning because you have this sack on g3. Well, it's not really a sack, and black has a massive attack. F g, queen g3 is checkmate. Okay, so we just discovered, is this a novelty? Let's check. Let's check if this is a novelty. It is not. It's been played. And it's been played by GMs. Saric played this. In 2003, somebody played it. Anatoly Weiser played it. And guess what? I was right. Knight D2 was played 3 times, but by correspondence players. Knight E1 is what the humans played. So Jovanovic, Grandmaster. Okay, F3 was played by Baclon, 2600. Weiser responded with Bishop D6. The game from 2003. And in this position, apparently black is supposed to drop the bishop back and pave the way for D5, but already black is better. In the other human game, Bishop E3 was played by a GM. And after D5, apparently black is already much better. So what this tells you is that the human value of this line is incredibly high. All of the humans who have had this have gotten terrible positions with white. Bishop G7, attacking D4, and if DC, then D4 forks the bishop and the knight. So we have discovered already a very interesting line. And so the way to play this line in conclusion is to start with A6. We examine bishop C4. Bishop D3 is the main line. Now we go E6. We don't fear knight D4 because here we have this D5 idea with queen G5 against E5. And if castles, we drop the knight back to C6. Now, should bishop E2, we can repeat moves against a higher rated opponent. Or we can play G5 with the idea of G4 and H5. Now, there's also the move B3 here that I've played with white. But B3, as far as I remember, you can just go G6 and counteract white's bishop with your own bishop. Typical developing. Now, knight A4, I've had this against Min, actually, where we trade bishops like this. And I'm pretty sure Min correctly plays D6. Rook E1 and E5. Just push the pawn through, grab the center. And black is a great position here. Knight F6, castle. The D5 score is weak, but it cannot really be occupied by a piece. So, wild complications, but black is totally comfortable here. So, knight takes B5 by me was actually an inaccuracy. You can see Stockfish kind of goes up. It still says it's equal, but I already felt very, very risky. Apparently, the correct move here, is E6. And apparently, this version is playable after B5. Wow. But this looks scary, doesn't it? I mean, this looks even scarier than the game continuation. Bishop G5 with tempo. Ugh, now it was 97 blocking the bishop. Yeah, this is computer play. So at a grandmaster level, what you often do, and the misconception is that GMs just plug positions into the engine, and that's how you make a file. No. See, it says equal, but I would never, ever recommend for anybody to go for this position with black in a game. How do I know that? Just intuitive feel. It looks horrible. It just looks, and knight D5, there might be some sacrifices on D5 with D5, even though it gives zeros. I mean, if you actually just look at the line, F6 is the only move. Nobody would ever play that. Because if you play bishop B7, then already it's plus minus. So you have to decide when you're analyzing with an engine, also using your field. Are you actually comfortable playing the position? At the end of the day, you have to be the one being comfortable with the position. And if for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable, you feel like you won't be able to handle the resulting middle game in a game, then you shouldn't play the line. You should search until you find stuff that you actually feel comfortable with. And that's what we did here. So after D6, D4, and Queen D4, apparently black is already clearly worse. And it's due to this crazy move, Queen B4. Pakra asks, as a low-rated player, why does playing against Long Castle like this feel scary? Well, it's less that, you see, it's less that you're playing against Long Castle and more that you're behind massively in development. White has already castled and gotten all of his minor pieces out, and you've gotten no minor pieces out. Black can't move here, right? You can't move this bishop because you dropped G7. And if you have to make a super weakening move like F6 in order to survive, well, that's a bad sign. That's a sign that this position is super hard to handle. So now you might say, but isn't it equal? Yeah, it is, but only with like insanely precise engine moves that I wouldn't be comfortable forcing myself to find. I hope this makes sense. Like, I'm trying to explain and give you like a meta strategy for analyzing with an engine since we're already on this kind of general topic. So anyways, D6, D4. So why is Queen B4 such a strong move? Well, it's because of the ensuing idea of putting the bishop on b6. This idea is insanely strong. If white goes anywhere except b4, then black is fine. You can see the engine gives even slight edge for black. And h6 is what I was planning to play. And then knight f6. Now, this is what I call the Smyslov idea. If you play knight f6 immediately, this is inaccurate because of bishop g5 takes f6 and then knight d5. This idea of removing a defender and then occupying the square with a knight is most famously illustrated in a game played in the 40s by Vasily Smyslov, the Soviet world champion. Now, this is a very famous game that's been shown way too many times. It's not the only illustration of this topic, and I've shown this before in the speedrun, but hey, you got to look at stuff that you already know. That's part of what learning is all about. So Smyslov had this position. Just a moment. There we go. Now Stockfish is off, which is why you have this weird panel. What does Smyslov play in this position? What's going on? Well, you should see the similarity. There's a weak square on d5. But that square is defended by black's knight. So Smyslov goes bishop g5 very famously. Then he eliminates the knight. And then he positions his own knight on d5. And this actually uses some tactics to make it work. If queen takes c2, you might notice that there is a forkable square on c7, right? So this is a trick question. What is white's best move? There is a mupwa, the most popular wrong answer. And the mupwa is very instructive. And then there's the correct move. Let's see who can avoid the trick. So most of you are like rook c1. It's rook c1. But see, this is, I call this queen disease when you don't realize that you've given up 1,000 pieces for your queen. It's the same exact concept here. When you're winning an exchange, right, you have to realize that an exchange is not that much material. So what you're doing is you're giving away a crap ton of pawns here on the queen side. And what's their material count at the end? Well, black has 3 pawns for the exchange. This is not impressive. But what you have to notice is that black's queen basically has to keep in contact with the c7 square. It must stay on the c file. So what move can we start with to prevent queen takes b2 from being a thing? It's rook f2. Excellent. Now notice that bishop h4, there's always the move g3. I know some of you might be thinking, oh, what about that move? No. The queen has to move on the c file. Now, again, we use the same principle. Rook c1 again is premature because of queen takes a2. So again, we play b3. We just keep chasing the queen down the c file, and only when we're ready do we play rook c1 and knight c7. Okay? So hopefully that made sense. So this is the Smyslov idea. This idea has been applied ad nauseum in a gazillion different types of situations. I've had it played against me many times. An example I have shown before on stream is this game against Kudrin. Kudrin being a typical Russian GM that I faced quite a few times when I was like 22, 2300. So Kudrin had this position against me. I was black. Again, same opening, Najdorf, right? And this structure very often occurs in the Najdorf, so it's not a coincidence that you actually get this often. And of course, he goes bishop to g5, same drill, eliminating the knight. I took on a2, so he just takes and goes back. Doesn't give a damn. And eventually, okay, here he makes an amazing move. I love this next move he plays. This is so freaking instructive. So what move do you want to play but can't? And why can't you play it? Logical thinking. This is a great exercise in logical thinking. And like actually calculating. So you want to play knight d5, right? And by the way, a rook on d5 is still a sexy piece. This is a nice output. But you don't want to give up c2 because the whole queen side collapses. So you might say, well, okay, well, let's defend the c2 pawn. And I think most of you are probably like, oh, let's go queen d2. The problem with queen d2 is that black goes rook a c8. And again, you're in trouble because you have to move the knight, go c2. So Kudrin plays a classic grandmaster move. Who can find it? And there's two moves that do the same thing, but he makes the more elegant move. So most of you, if I read you guys right, are thinking rook ac1. But he goes rook a2. And well, what the heck is the difference? Well, rook ac1 is inferior for a variety of reasons. The rook on c1 is totally tied down to the pawn. The rook on a2 is preparing for the event that white plays. Well, b5 is played, a5. And the rook on a2 now defends the a5 pawn and the c2 pawn. And later on, further down the line, when white moves the knight away, maybe he can push the pawn out of c2 and then double on the d file. So the rook on a2 is just better placed. And finally, he achieves his aim. He gets his rook to d5, and he proceeds to outplay me. Now watch what he does. Now, I mentioned that the rook on d5 was a good piece. But what piece do you really want to go to d5? Well, it's the knight. Watch what he does. Bang. He goes queen e4. Bang. c3. And look at this. His rook on a2 is actually doing something now. It's defending f2. That was a very prophetic move. You see? Many moves later, it's actually come in handy. The fact that he's put the rook on a2. This is the elegance of positional play. You do stuff for the future. Now, you don't know if the future is ever going to turn into reality, but one time out of three, it does. And now knight e3 and knight d5, and he has fully completed positional domination, and he proceeded to win the game. But all of this stemmed from the Smyslov idea, bishop g5. Okay, so maybe I belabored this, but now you'll never forget it, hopefully. Now you'll fully understand this concept of eliminating a piece to access a square. Okay, so back we go to the game. And we're going to turn Stockfish on again. Just because we've been analyzing with the engine, and that's fine with me. So instead, that's why we want to go h6 here. So that after castle's knight f6, white can still put the knight on d5. But here, the worst piece to occupy an outpost with is the queen. Okay? Because, why? Well, because the queen is ridiculously vulnerable. And we can chase the queen away first by putting our queen on c7. Not this, because it blunders b7. But first queen c7. While you're at it, you can hit the pawn. And then bishop e6 and bishop e7 with a great position. So this would have been fine. Queen b4 is incredibly strong. Now, the engine gives us some ways that we could survive this. I'm not particularly interested because we've already extracted the lessons from the opening. Apparently, h6 makes things even worse. And after knight f6, it's officially a losing position. It's already +2. Apparently, the only move here was in fact to play queen e7. Castles and somehow to just pretend that nothing's the matter, but this position sucks. Now, of course, what I had missed from a distance, I thought that I would go here. And notice that if white doesn't have knight takes e5, black is fine. But white has this incredibly annoying move, knight e5, and this is crushing because the queen is trapped. The queen is literally trapped. You have to take, and then you get checkmated. Well, the Jospin game is a Title Tuesday game, so it's not that interesting. And the crazy thing is that if you develop and you say, I have an idea. Well, now knight takes e5 is not possible because after de, we're attacking the queen simultaneously. We're going to win a piece. Well, you have to keep calculating. It is possible because after rook d7, bishop d4, there is the check on d8 anyway. And white wins h8. And white's up in exchange and winning the game. So all of these tactical lines work perfectly in white's favor. We had to move our queen again. And bishop c7 is a sexy move. Just attacking from behind. And black's position simply collapses. Maybe king d7 could have been tried. But here, there are more tactics with rook takes d6 and rook d1. Picking up the queen with a devastating attack. And there's just nothing that can be done. Here the position collapses and nothing's developed. And white is just taking everything and checkmating me down the d-file. And the rest, of course, we've analyzed. We're not going to look at the endgame in this video. We've already gone quite a while. Of course, white is totally winning. I could talk about, more accurate, less accurate moves. But at the end of the day, our opponent played very, very well up until blundering that fork. So I think this is where we're going to pause, guys. I'm not sure how long this video is going to last, but quite an eventful speedrun game. Wasn't expecting something this crazy. But again, our focus in the speedrun is on opening, so I hope that you enjoyed the discussion of knight c6, bishop b5, and now you know how to play against it. Well, now you know how to play against knight f3. There is also bishop c4, which is the old main line, and I'm quite sure that we're going to face this line at least one more time. So we're going to get a chance to discuss this theory later. But hope you enjoyed the game. This is a slightly different method of analysis. We had the engine on, and I know some people are going to be like, why do you have the engine on? You know, but hopefully you can appreciate that we were focusing on openings here, and obviously we were checking our opponent's play. So, you know, hope you can forgive this deviation from the norm. And on that note, folks, it's almost 5 hours. I'm going to call it a night. I will see y'all tomorrow. And I am going to raid. Who am I going to raid? I'm going to raid Fiona. Fiona covering the European Rapid Championship. Thank you all for hanging out. Thanks for the support. Once again, I have a YouTube channel. If you subscribe, you help me tremendously. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.